Hey, once again, you've fallen straight into Hellavella, and you're here at another Lawless interview. Today, I'm talking to author Jenn Czep, and she is a prolific author of a lot of stuff. Very interesting. She's also a ghostwriter. Can't talk about who she's a ghostwriter for. Not looking to do that, but just I think it's great to know that there are still ghostwriters out there, and Jenn is one or has been one in the past. She is also a Vella writer, and of course that's what we talk about here on Hellavella, are all things to do with the exciting new serial reading platform called Kindle Vella. Say hi, Jenn.
Hello.
It's like, shut up, Azriel.
My
if you do, I might can say hi. Hey. I was just so excited when I saw your author page and saw all of the things that you've written, and it was just pretty cool. She does have a couple of Vellas, and we want to talk about those today. But I want to ask, the first thing I always ask all of my guests is, when did you get started writing?
Professionally writing in the early 2000s. So I don't know, I want to say like 2002, 2003-ish. But prior to that, I've kind of always told stories and wrote stories. I grew up in a very small area in upstate New York, and there wasn't a whole lot to do. And so I wrote a lot of stories and would get lost in the marshlands and the woods and create my own stories and things. So always kind of telling stories.
That's very cool. That's very cool. So when you got started in the early 2000s, what were you writing then that brought home your daily bread?
I wouldn't say it brought home the daily bread, but it was fun. And I got a little bit out of writing articles and doing short stories and things of that nature, and really released my first novel in 2007. So.
And what was that?
That was the original incarnation of what I have now turned into a Kindle Vella, which Ooh. Is, it was Blackstrap's Ecstasy. And it was kind of the short version, intro version of what I turned into the Blackstrap's Tales of Ecstasy for Kindle Vella.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. And then you have a second one. And what is it called?
Currently working on Ideal of Roses, which is a gothic horror, very flowery language, very, dark, sort of dark romance almost, but not really romantic, I guess. I don't know. It's a gothic, and it's very pretty, but also a lot of blood, and it's an experimental thing. So that's why I kind of put it on Kindle Vella, because I was like, well, let's see what happens.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. When did you hear about Kindle Vella?
I started right in the beginning. What was it? They officially opened everything up in like July of last year. When was it? Yeah, last year. And I think I started feeding it, shall we say, it was like May or June. It was pretty early before they got started with it. And they hadn't even opened it up for anybody to read yet. They were just like, just feed it. So I'm like, okay, well, this is something. We'll see what happens with it.
Right, right. And how have you done? Have you had good performance out there?
I've done pretty well. I haven't found that secret ingredient yet that gets the thousands of readers, but I've had a few and I'm enjoying it. I think the biggest thing is I like the experimentation of writing, and I like experimenting with the different platforms. So like writing for Kindle Vella, I hadn't really thought about writing serials, so why not? And for me, it motivates me to work on pieces that, like an Ideal of Roses, where I don't know that I would have found a good market for it. I think it is something that I can play with and get out there. And while I'm working on it, I can, make a couple bucks on it. Why not?
Yeah. And that's really cool. I think you're the first one who's mentioned that, but I think that there are many more of us out there doing that. that it's a way to kind of fund the story. I know that I know when it comes time for me to wrap mine up as a book, that I'll use whatever I've made off of it to get a nice cover and give it the best launch I can give it, you know. So.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's just something to kind of experiment and play, and doesn't hurt, right?
No. So you published out there on Kindle, right? And out in the ebook market, and that was in like 2007. So let's fast forward. What genres have you written in between like 2007 and 2022, here where we are now, 2021, when you started writing for Vella? What are the genres that you've explored?
I've explored some horror. I've explored the obviously adventure stories for like pirates and things like that. I've done a YA fantasy called Trolls, and that one was a lot of fun. I actually wrote that one in 2003, but it didn't get picked up until like 2013. And then I most recently am working on the sequel to Cloud, which I wrote with a fellow writer, and it's science fiction. It's kind of a weird world where the Akashic records, or the spiritual records, can be accessed through our internet and cell phones and things like that.
Oh, cool. Very cool. So are they seen as being like in an exterior repository?
It's a weird, so what happens is the characters find an entryway. Basically, they find almost like a backdoor to the dark web kind of thing, and they're like, wait, we shouldn't be able to see these things. And so they start messing with that and causing the chaos that, what would happen if you could know your past lives through your cell phone? That's not really a safe thing.
No, I don't think it is. I don't think it is. That's fantastic. And the reason I'm smiling so big is that, and I never talk about my serials. If you've watched any of my interviews, I don't talk about my stuff, but I'm going to mention something of my own. In one of my stories, there's a character who has a past life character from her Akashic record, which in this book, I posit that the Akashic record is kept in that 95% of the brain we do not use. That really, that's basically a file cabinet for all of our past lives. And anyway, so, because I'm sure you've seen some of the stuff, some of the inexplicable things, like people get hit in the head and then suddenly they can play the piano,
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So that's where I got this idea, right? But what happens with this little girl is she gets a trauma and it comes on. She's like, that personality bubbles up to the top. Someone she was 400 years ago.
That's cool.
So that's why I was smiling so big, because I love that. I love that idea. I'm definitely going to check your story out, because I want to see how you treated that. And that's Cloud to Cloud.
Yeah, that one's as a novel, but we're releasing the sequel on Vella. We've decided, well, give it a go. We'll see what happens. So
okay, reprise those characters and see what happens. Well, I will read the original ones, because we're going to go ahead and put anybody that wants to take a look at Jenn's work, and it's an impressive body of work. We're definitely going to be linking to the pages where you can go and check all that stuff out in the video description, in addition to Ideal of Roses and Black Straps, Tales of Ecstasy. Oh yeah. So you have enjoyed your experience on Vella?
I have. Again, for me, it's just motivating to keep writing and keep working on stuff. Sometimes you get bogged down and you don't, that muddy middle, as they say. this gets you through that muddy middle of like, well, people are going to be expecting something next week, so I got to get through the rest of this.
Exactly. And it's a wonderful motivational tool.
Yeah. And with An Ideal of Roses, I like the idea that I can kind of just do the dark and twisted gothic that I like to play with, but there's no one to tell me, no, you can't do that. That's too avant-garde. That's too weird. Like, nah, I'm do it anyway. And that one definitely does have an end point. I will be finishing that story and hopefully releasing it as an ebook version. The Blackstrap's Tales of Ecstasy, I don't really have an end in mind. So I was like, well, I'll just keep feeding this until I get tired of these characters. The best comment that I got on the Blackstrap's Tales of Ecstasy was, I'm reading it just to see what these idiots are up to next. I'm like, okay, you get me.
Oh, I like that. I would take that as a compliment for sure.
I loved it. I'm like, okay, I want to frame that one. That's a good one.
I like it. So what do you like to read? Do you read Velas at all? Have you read any?
Yes, I have been reading Velas. I have so many on my list to read as well. And I know we're in multiple groups on Facebook and things like that. And there's just so many. I also read I have another podcast that I do too. And so I'm always reading something for that. So it's kind of like, I read the Velas for fun. And then I read the other stuff. It is still pleasurable reading, but it's like, I kind of have this mission of like, I've got to finish it before our next podcast, so it's like homework. So I don't,
well,
Velas don't feel like homework.
I was going to ask, do you, as a person who writes Velas, do you go out and try to find other people who are writing like you and take a look at their stuff?
Yes and no. I really like to read science fiction, like space and stuff like that, science fiction, but I'm not as good at writing that. And I will say that there's a couple of pirate themed ones out there that I've been reading because I'm like, I like the pirate stories and I get to play with my pirates and I want to see what other pirates are up to. And, I know that's like, I just want to see what other pirates are doing, if that makes
different ship, man, different ship.
Different ship. I like to see what they're doing with it. And it's interesting to me to read, especially a genre like the pirate adventure. It's interesting to me where you can really, some of the story little arcs and things can be very similar because there's only really so much you can do with pirates,
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's so many different ways to twist it that it's still a different story. It's like you can still read like, oh, okay, well, there's a good pirate and a bad pirate, and there's gonna be a fight there. I can see you building up to it. Or there's a female pirate and you can see where she's kind of coming into her own. And so all of those basic storylines are there, but I love the different ways that people kind of put them out there and express them.
Yes. I just see it, like I said, different ships, different pirates.
Mm-hmm. So it's just limitless in some ways, and yet at the same time you're like, well, they're on a boat, so
exactly. Narrow in others, very narrow in others, and you have to work within a certain framework. Do you have a favorite pirate author?
Oh, currently not really. Like, I don't have a favorite pirate author. I have some favorite pirate stories. I definitely like there's some steampunk ones out there, and I guess that's not really pirates so much, but like there's a lot of different, blanking on a particular name at this point. I'm like, I don't know. I like them all.
That's okay. So no novellas you can tell us about either?
Oh, I can't remember the name offhand, but it's like the mystic something, and she is in one of our groups, and she also writes another pirate story. I'm like trying to think what her name was. I'm like gonna go looking for her now because I'm
The
like, I
Mystic
know
something.
Yeah. Do you remember seeing her? I'm like trying to remember what her name was.
I'm sure,
Yeah.
my memory is so bad.
It was like, oh, now I feel bad because I'm like, I'm like, how did I miss your other ones? Because she had like the Crimson Cross was the other one that she's doing. So I'm like, how did I miss this? That you had 2 pirate novels out. She goes, well, because this one's only been out for like a week. And I'm like, oh, okay. I don't feel so bad now. So that's one of them. I don't remember her name, but the Crimson Cross, I think, is the name of the one I just started reading. And I haven't gotten too far into it, but the other one, it was Mystic something. And I was like, yes, this is totally my kind of pirates. I dig. So
So that's okay. So I will find that.
yes. And she's on Kindle Vella with both of them. So
oh, that's super cool. So Crimson Cross and the Mystic something. We don't know.
The Mystic something. I don't remember what that one was. So
still, like, that's awesome.
I'm like, I could dig forever trying to find this thing. And I don't have Kindle on my computer. So I'm like, I don't even know.
We'll let that one go. We'll just let that one go. So the next question I ask everyone is, now that you've been on Vella a while, and you've been on since July, since the launch, if you had all the power to do anything with the platform that you wanted, what would you wish for? 2 things.
Oh, 2 things I would wish the platform to do. One of the things is I wish that we could get into like the chapters of our own stories a little deeper from the reader side without having to like use tokens, if that makes sense. And maybe it's something I haven't like pushed enough to get to, but I want to see it the same way a reader sees each chapter. And I don't seem to be able to get as deep as some of my friends who are like, I just read your chapter and this happened and I was able to do this. And I'm like, well, I can't do that. How come I can't do that? So it could be that I don't have because I only have the Kindle app on my phone. So maybe it's something that they can do because they have a Kindle reader or something. The other thing that I've seen in other platforms that do serials is that you can add images and like change some of the, like, not the backgrounds per se. And I definitely don't want music. There's a couple platforms out there that let you add music to each of your chapters. And I'm like, I have seen that go horribly awry. I'm like, please don't give this to people. Like, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
So I hope they do not do that. But I would like the ability to add like an image specific to each chapter.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that on other platforms. And I really like that idea of making an image specific to that story or that chapter that you're working on.
I do that with one of mine, where I put images up on TikTok to go with the episodes. But it would be so cool to have it be right there with the episode. So
yeah.
So when you're talking about somebody's how they're dressed or what car they're driving or even what neighborhood they're in, you can give them a photo and there you go. Here, this helps your imagination along. Man, this is a generation of people who grew up looking at pictures. These people want to see some pictures,
Well, yeah. And so much of like serial reading is done with comics and things. And I feel like that is obviously you want to see pictures. So the idea of just reminding people, hey, this is what your characters look like, this is what we're working on, and not a whole bunch of pictures, maybe one,
right.
Just something to draw the audience in and get them interested. I think that would be nice, but not the music.
Not the music. We don't want any music.
No, I saw that on a platform and I'm like, this has so much This is trouble written all over it.
This has so much nope potential. Nope.
No.
Okay, so that's it. That's all you would do.
I think those are the only things I would do. And part of the reason I'd like to get into the chapters a little deeper and be able to like pick things apart from the reader side and see what the reader is seeing is so that I could kind of capture those images and share that a little more for marketing purposes.
Right.
So it's all marketing. I know it's like, because it's such a new platform. It's like, how can I better use this for marketing?
Yes. How can I make people understand how to use this here platform?
Yeah. And again, I wonder if Amazon wasn't quite sure what they were getting into when they were getting into serial stories, because it's not like serial stories is new.
No.
That's something that's existed on multiple platforms for a long time on the internet. And it's like Amazon's finally catching up with that one. So
I have my own opinion. I think it's because the demographic is swollen. All right. So like you've heard of the baby boomers generation. Well, this last generation was also extremely sizable, right?
Yeah.
Sizable enough to make a wave. And I think we're seeing something that's on that wave, because the demographic is swollen. I don't know any other way to put it. So
yeah, it is. That's what they like to read and how they like to consume media. And so here it comes.
right. Because what does it emulate? Everything, Netflix, HBO series, they're all like this, all like this, episodic. Here's a little, and once you've bought a little, it'll be there for you so that you can look at it again if you want to,
Yeah.
So as an experienced author and having other works out there on Kindle, regular Kindle, do you think that people who read your books will come over and read your Vella stories, or do you think they'll resist that?
There was resistance in the very beginning because, like I said, I released right when Amazon said, "Here we go," in July. I was right there. I had several chapters up and ready to go already. And a bunch of my readers who have read my books before, they're like, "I'll just wait until you turn it into a book." I'm like, but that's not the point. That's not how you play this game. You have to play correctly. And so there was resistance in the beginning. Since then, I have noticed that some of the numbers that I have are from people that I know have read my other books, and they're like, okay, now I'm buying in. Like, all right, this is a thing that's going to go on. It's real. It's not just a flash in the pan. And I think that was some of the hesitation in the very beginning was that people thought this is something that's going to come and go. Yeah.
But that's not really been... I mean, there was the one thing with the fan fiction site. Everyone keeps going back to that, back to that. But the way I understand it, there wasn't coin purchases. That wasn't involved in it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
If Amazon can make money off of it, they are going to do it.
Oh, yeah.
And they are going to do it hard. And they are going to do it better than anyone else out there. And they are going to level the competition if possible. So I think this one where they've made it where people have to keep buying, because they are also pushing, if you look on their product side of things, what are they pushing? Subscriptions.
Yeah.
Buy your laundry soap, your whatever, here, subscribe. So it's the same thing, right?
It is. It's just getting people to get back on that.
It's prime.
And again, part of the reason why I chose a Gothic set in the late 1880s for what I was like, this is going to be my first serial, is because that's kind of when the serial stories were big, was back in that time period. So I was reviewing some of the stories and how stories that we now know as novels, how did they come out as serials? How did they reproduce that, and kind of go, okay, what are some of the key elements of a serial story working back when it worked the first time? Kind of it's like going way back. Cool.
You're doing that research?
Yeah, just because I'm a little weird.
Well, I like that. I like that very much. Can you name a work that people might know that was first a serial? There's a bunch of them.
Oh yeah, the Phantom of the Opera, that I'm sure everybody knows that one. The Count of Monte Cristo is probably one of the most. It's a big one. So also a lot of the Sherlock Holmes stories. Also, I mean, I don't really think it's that obvious to some that James Bond, Ian Fleming's 007 series, was released originally as a serial in Playboy.
Oh, I don't think I knew that. I don't think I knew that. That's
and
awesome.
That one's, that's not even that far back. I mean, we're not even going, 100 years back on that one.
In the 70s, right?
Yeah, it was in the late 60s, early 70s, I think. It didn't run long as a serial until it got picked up as novels and stuff. So, but that was how we introduced it to people, was people really did read it for the articles, I guess.
Some articles, right? Yes, I understand that now. I understand that a lot better now. Thank you for telling me that. Everybody, you get educated on this channel. I'm here to tell you.
Full of all kinds of weird information. Anything you need.
That's great. I'm going to, yeah. Let's get your phone number. No, I'm joking. So, well, do you have any works that you're particularly thinking of doing for Vella coming up, that you're cooking up in your head?
I have a couple that I've done for National Novel Writing Month, NaNoWriMo's, in the past, that I'm like, I really see Vella as a great platform to test the water on an idea. So I like the idea of putting out, I have a noir novel that I'm like, yeah, this is kind of cool. I don't know if anybody's going to pick it up, so this is something I'll probably play with on Vella. I have a very dark and twisted kind of road through hell sort of. It's funny in that dark, kind of gross sort of way. And that definitely, I think, would work better on Vella than as a novel, because you definitely got to find a type to read that.
So you see Vella is what? It's a more eclectic sort of...
and experimental. I like to experiment. Yeah.
And you see Vella is kind of being that way.
Yeah. I think you can kind of get away with a lot more on there.
Oh, well, true that. I guess that's, well, within, I wonder what the limitations are, because certain episodes for certain kinds of fiction take a lot longer to get them through the approval and publication process. And that begs the question, what are they looking for?
Yeah, I've wondered that too. I've not had anything get stuck in limbo, as I know we've heard other people go, oh yeah, this got stuck in limbo for like a week and I don't know what happened. I mean, knock on wood, I haven't gotten any of them stuck yet. And I really, because like I said, with the Tales of Ecstasy one, it is, the opening couple of chapters are very similar to what was in the book, because I'm bringing that back in. And so I was like, am I going to get dinged for plagiarizing myself, essentially, for one book being kind of from the other? And I didn't. They were like totally okay with it. So I'm like, okay.
I've seen other people get dinged for plagiarizing themselves.
That's why I was like, well, if it doesn't make it, that's fine. It was an experiment. We'll see what happens. But now I've gone so far into it that it's a totally different story at this point.
Definitely.
So yeah.
Very cool.
But yeah, I definitely see it as a playground, like one big sandbox to kind of screw around in for a while. I don't have to play by anybody's rules, really. When you have a publisher and stuff, you're like, you gotta follow rules, and you gotta, they want certain things at certain times, and I'm like, no, I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is definitely cool. I'll give you that. And it is fresh.
Yeah.
And I think, that's something that's got to be right now. And I do think that the key demographic is the younger set for this platform, because Amazon's not taking something on so they can do it for a year or 2 years. They're taking it on so they can talk about it in decades, how many years it's going to last in decades. So it's in its infancy. If it was a giant balloon, if we were filling it, it would barely fit in the palm of your hand. Yeah. So, and I just know there's a lot better to come. So.
Oh yeah. And you can tell that it's in its very beginning stages because of the things that I've seen on other serial platforms that they don't have yet.
Right.
And also the inconsistencies with how things are reviewed and put out there. And some of the inconsistencies with like, how exactly are you reading how much bonus points you're getting for each thing, and what exactly is happening here? So I know a lot of us in the groups are always talking about, I don't understand why I got this much in bonuses this week and this much there, and where are you getting these algorithms from? And we're all kind of like, I don't know. I can't do their math.
I don't think you can nail it down mathematically. I think, and this is the only way you can really explain it, is that there are so many moving parts that are considered, which here comes some of the soft ones, right? We all know that we all know the thumbs up and the reads. We all know those are solid. Okay, but then there's also to be considered, how often is that serial updated?
Yeah.
And further to that, how many words are in the serial? Okay, because you're not going to pay the writer who puts out a 4,000 word episode the same for episode reads as you do for a writer who gives you a 650 word episode.
Yeah.
Okay, so the bonuses are going to be the number of words will be factored in. So now you've got like 5 moving pieces, right?
That's just the beginning.
Right, and that is just the tip of the iceberg, baby. There, because they can bring in data. I used to work big data, so I understand that there's simply too many variables for you to get a handle on this. You can be the best mathematician in the world, but it's just too many to consider. Especially it's so black box. It's like, they're not going to tell you ever what this is based on.
And to some degree, I wonder if they aren't really sure. It's sort of, they fed an algorithm in and like, it'll figure it out.
Yeah, that's a version of it. Yeah. Or, basically, if they were taken to court, what you would likely hear is something along the lines of, here is the expert from X company that sold us the AI software to do this job. And now they're going to tell you what the hell is going on, because they programmed the stuff, they trained our staff, and they are on retainer. That's how it's done. So, you're not far off.
It's like, who knows?
They don't know for sure themselves, but somebody knows.
Yeah. which again is what makes it kind of fun to play with. I love being in on the ground floor of something new and crazy.
It is fun.
I do a lot of new and crazy in the writing world and in the outside of the writing world. I do. Let's try this. Let's see what happens.
Oh. Anything you can tell us about?
I mean, I'm one of those people that if people ask me, so can you do this? I'm like, yes. And then I go Google how to do it. Because I'm like, I mean, you're going to pay me to do it. So I'm going to do it. I'm figuring out how along the way. It's how I ended up doing everything I do, really. I mean, from stage shows to belly dancing to sword fighting to writing novels, everything's been like, yeah, I know how to do that. Give me a minute.
I like that. And good things have come of this.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think I've experienced things in my life that I never would have experienced had I hesitated for a moment going, I'm not sure I know how to do that. It's like, no, throw me in feet first. We'll see what happens. I'll figure it out.
So someone asked you if you would belly dance for them, if you could do that, and that's how you learned?
Well, I went into a class and started taking the class, and they go, would you be interested in teaching eventually? I'm like, yeah, sure, I can teach.
Well, you were good at it, so they liked that. That's different. That's different. That's not someone coming up and going, hey, I've got a bachelor party. I'm going to have a bunch of drunk dudes. Can you belly dance for this?
Yeah, and I don't do bachelor parties. I've never done that. I did one friend's birthday party I belly danced at, but mostly teaching and restaurants and stage shows.
Yeah. Like okay. Bachelor party like at a restaurant, not at somebody's house.
Yes, I would do that, but
that's a little different.
There are barriers there.
Cool. That's pretty cool. That's adventurous, I'd say. I like that. That's neat. So I guess I'm gonna have to check out your writing to see if that spirit is reflected in your writing. Yeah.
I would say that I definitely experiment a lot in my writing. And that's one of the things that I've found is good for ghostwriting too. If there's anybody out there that's considered ghostwriting or wanted to do any of that, it's almost like somebody who can speak in a bunch of different accents or, do the voices like the actors that do. You're kind of learning people's voices so that way, when you go in and write for them, it's seamless. It is their voice. It is their story that you're writing, and in the way that they would write it, because you don't want them stuck at some point going, oh, that doesn't sound like me at all. Like, you want to write sounds like them.
So tell us how does ghostwriting work? How do you do that?
For me, it kind of started with people coming to me and saying, hey, I really want to write this book, but I have no idea how to do it. And again, me needing to keep the lights on, I'm like, well, let me help you and we'll negotiate how that works with me helping you. And then they're like, well, what if I just give you my ideas and then you make it pretty with the words? And I'm like, all right, I will make it pretty with the words. And that's how it started. And they spoke to other people, and other people were like, hey, my friend has been struggling with a book forever. They've got a great idea, but they just don't have the skill set to write it, to put it into words. And that's how I did it. I wouldn't say that's 100% how everybody does it. I know some people go through companies that will hire people, but for me, it was, I go find people who have a need, basically. And it's just like finding a mechanic to fix your car. It's like, I can do that. I'll help you with that. So that's a skill set I have. And we do, usually when I do a contract we talk about the project first. And it's more about, it's less about what is the story and what is the project, because some of them come to me with an outline and it's like, okay, I will bulk this out. And some are like, this is my idea and I'm going to tell you my idea and we're going to talk about it. And I'm going to take a ton of notes and then I'm going to come back to you with a chapter or two. And then we'll talk about if you like that. And then we'll work through. And it's a lot of conversational on that end of it too. So.
Well, it sounds like you would have to tailor what you charge these people to what you're doing for them.
Yeah, I have different rates based on like, I've told some people, I'm like, I'm not really writing this for you. I'm coaching you how to write it. So that's more of a book coach, I think, than a ghostwriter, but I've done that as well. It's like you
everything in between.
Yeah. And I've done editing and, all the different stuff. So.
Well, very cool. Very cool. Well, I thank you for coming and talking to me today. Thank you for taking your time out and being on Helavella.
This has been a blast. Thank you.
Oh, I'm so happy.
Much. You are fun. And I hope that we chat some more on other platforms and in other venues as well, because you seem really cool.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. It's been fun getting to know you. And I'm going to give you the last question that I ask everybody. If you're talking directly to the people who are clicking the links in the description here, what would you say to them? These are your readers.
Thank you for clicking. Just thank you, because more than anything else, it's great to know that people still read and people still like fun stories. And, just thank you. Thank you for being out there and testing and giving us a chance.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it. I love it. Yes, people, thank you so much. And thank you for watching Helavella. And we will see you later. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.